The big story on the Quarter Report today is about the newly appointed special envoy to America on behalf of the South African government, Mcebisi Jonas. Imagine how hard the Americans are going to work to try and pronounce that name correctly. I think on some level, President Ramaphosa was thinking, you know what would be funny? As if we made them say a click name. Just my best bet is that it's going to be, American accent, Mcebisi, American accent. Hi, how are you? Mcebisi Jonas. Something like that.
Maybe it'll become Mcebisi and it'll be like a line of whiskeys or something.
But Mcebisi Jonas has been announced as our special envoy to the United States. So we're going to talk about what a special envoy is versus an ambassador. And we're going to talk about the fact that there is already an enormous political uproar in the United States from the far-right media about Mcebisi Jonas because, unsurprisingly, about 4 to 5 years ago, he bashed Donald Trump, kind of like our previous ambassador, Ebrahim Rasool, did. But this time, he didn't just do it quietly on like a little webinar of a relatively small research institute like Ebrahim Rasool did. He did this at an Ahmed Kathrada Foundation address that was covered on SABC News, the biggest news broadcaster in South Africa. And it's led to this huge discussion in South Africa about so whether they did due diligence or disappointed him anyway in full knowledge of that happening. But the second and maybe more important question is, does it even matter? Does it even matter at this point if we send a South African who has spoken out against Trump in the past or not when it comes to America? And because we're far away in, and Eric is thinking I have not even said the catchphrase of the show yet, this is the Quarter Report, South Africa is a Movie. Welcome to the watch party. You can contribute to the show on our WhatsApp line 0607 613 436. Let's start with Mcebisi Jonas. So Ebrahim Rasool was basically evicted from the United States of America as an ambassador, and for a while now we've been wondering who we are going to send in his place. And then in the last 24 hours, the presidency of South Africa announced that Mcebisi Jonas would be sent as not an ambassador, as a special envoy. Now, a special envoy is somebody who is deployed by a government to engage with another government or another country or on a particular task for a set period of time to deal with a specific situation, usually some kind of diplomatic tension or some kind of crisis between the countries. You elect short-term, non-permanent special envoys rather than a permanent placement ambassador. We're not sure why Mcebisi Jonas was made a special envoy and not an ambassador. We do know that he's very busy. Like, he's chairman of the MTN group. He's in a bunch of other different business investments. He's also been a special envoy for at least for 5 years, from 2018, in a special task force that was created at the request of President Ramaphosa to try and get masses of investment into South Africa, like $100 billion over 5 years. So he's already done this kind of work. And it's pretty clear that he is being sent to try and revive relations between South Africa and America. And it includes the American government, but it also includes private sector and American business. The presidency statement was very clear on that, about how Jonas's specific skills, abilities, and experience in business and creating business ties and private sector engagement between different private sector industries and companies is part of the reason why he was chosen. And rarely, very rarely for anything that President Ramaphosa does, it was met with widespread approval by the South African. I mean, even the DA was like, "Shut, that was good." Yeah. We are happy with that. And one of the reasons why is probably because Jonas is a little bit of a hero for a whole bunch of people, because he was deputy finance minister back under the Zuma years, and he and the finance minister at the time, Pravin Gordhan, were kicked by Zuma, which actually caused a bunch of condemnation from South African opposition parties at the time, but also from within the ANC. It was like one of the earliest explicit revolts and rebellions against Zuma's decision-making from people within the ANC when he fired Jonas and Gordhan. In fact, it was crazy because he actually recalled them to fire them when they were in London doing an international trade roadshow to try and get people to invest in South Africa at all. So Jonas was fired, Gordhan was fired, and then the rumors started that part of the reason why they were fired was because they turned down pressure to advance state capture. Because remember, if you can compromise the finance ministry, you can get state capture done really effectively. And there were rumors that the Guptas were trying to through Zuma, influence Gordhan and Jonas to pull a further state capture. And then in bombshell testimony in a commission sometime later, and this got international worldwide news headlines, BBC and the rest, Jonas testified that the Guptas said, "We will pay you 600 million rand as a bribe in exchange for you inserting our businesses into the affairs that you rule over as Deputy Minister of Finance. And Jonas said that he turned down that offer. And then at the end of the meeting, I think it was AJ Gupta, it was one of the Guptas who said, according to Jonas, if you tell anyone of this meeting, we will kill you. So when Jonas made that testimony, it was a huge testimony in framing what happened with the attempted state capture. And he became a bit of a hero because he turned down the overtures in a way that not many other people did. He rejected the pressure, and under extreme temptation of 600 million rand, which then was even more than it is now, and then the threats of potentially being killed, he said no, and then Zuma got rid of him and Pravin Gordhan. So that's why Jonas is a bit of a hero in South Africa for a lot of people across the political spectrum. And now he's been made special envoy. But the kerfuffle is because of this clip, this speech that he made, this part of the speech that he made for the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation back in 2020. Jonas made this address around the time of the US election, although it hadn't yet been decided.
Right now, the US is undergoing a watershed moment, with Biden the certain winner in the presidential race against the racist, homophobe Donald Trump. How we got to a situation where a narcissistic right-winger took charge of the world's greatest economic and military powerhouse is something that we need to ponder over. It is something that all democracies need to ponder over.
So that clip surfaced yesterday after Jonas was announced and immediately got seized on by far-right, alt-right, fantasy, fact-free media in the United States. Most significantly, Breitbart News, who, as I said earlier, are the people who posted the clip of Ebrahim Rasool that then ended up being seen by Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State of the United States, that got Rasool evicted in the first place. They reported, it's interesting, consider what you just saw/heard, and then think about if that is really what happened. Because Breitbart wrote, Jonas was very excited, maybe, and then his vicious anti-Trump commentary. I don't think there was anything particularly vicious in that alleged anti-Trump commentary in that reporting. And then they quoted exactly the clip that we just played. And then Breitbart writes, as things turned out, the disaster of the Biden presidency dealt a rather devastating blow to globalism, and the triumphant return of Trump to the White House threatens to dismantle the entire globalist system. So it's hard to see why Jonas would want to be a special envoy to the Trump administration if he was expressing his true feelings in 2020, or why the Trump administration would receive him. And that, I think, is key. I think that is really, really important, because if Breitbart is pushing that it is very likely a harbinger for what's to come this week. Because I'm sure that the MAGA people will try to turn Jonas's appointment into as much of an uproar as they did over those Rasool quotes. And as we mentioned earlier, Trump now uses South Africa as his go-to punching bag as a distraction. That's his strategy. So he hadn't tweeted or even really thought about us or spoken on us for weeks. And then at the worst moment for him, when he was experiencing the most humiliation over his capitulation on tariffs and China showing him up and the whole world going, what the hell are you doing? And markets crashing in every single direction, he suddenly posted about South Africa. And it's giving what he used to do with trans people. It's like this misdirect. It's like classic political strategy. Change the narrative, go, look over there. And then everyone looks over there. And it's really sad and not great for South Africa that we've become his kind of new witch hunt. But it is definitely the strategy. But now the question is what to do about this kerfuffle with Mcebisi Jonas. I really think that it is possible that the presidency did not do the due diligence research to just do a basic Google. But I also think that it's possible that the presidency went, it doesn't matter who we send, because it's so clear that we are the witch hunt punching bag. It doesn't matter. We could send the most pro-MAGA person. We could send the most Trump-loving imaginable South African to the US, and it wouldn't make any difference to what...
they were still selected by us.
Totally. And it seems like Trump needs to use us as a punching bag. There is no way that he is going to change his position on South Africa at all. And so to a degree, it's like almost a shoulder shrug. It's like, it doesn't matter who we send. It may not even matter, these Jonas quotes at all, although he may just now get evicted immediately or ejected immediately, and then we'll have to pick somebody else.
It's interesting, though, because, I mean, ever since his firing in the Zuma years and his resignation from parliament shortly thereafter, I mean, he's been pretty much in business since then. So maybe there is some method in the madness to send him.
Yeah, I
in terms
hear
of
you.
investment and
Totally. Like, we need to try and imagine if he can do well enough in his special envoyship outside of his engagements directly with the US government. Because now these quotes have come out to be publicized in Breitbart, and they will spread much further. I'm sure they'll be in Fox by the time we post this. I'm sure that by the time this show goes live in a couple of hours' time, Fox will be talking about this. Like, it's like a non-starter with the US government, and this will become a huge mess. But if he remains special envoy, is even let into the country, then he might be able to do good engagements with like US business and that. But I don't even see him being let in, man. I don't even see him being getting position right now. It's really hard to imagine that the US will even let him in. And I know the ugly irony of this situation, which is that the hypocrisy is almost impossible to handle about how many sycophantic Americans criticized Trump, railed against him, said that they were never Trumpers, including his now Vice President, J.D. Vance. And then over the years, they've turned around, kissed the ring. Marco Rubio is another. Absolutely hypocritical nonsense. Like being completely never Trumpers who now kiss his ass at every opportunity to advance in their position. Those people saying, screw South Africa for being anti-Trump, screw Jonas for being anti-Trump. Those people trying to say that, Trump is not racist, how dare you? Trump is not a homophobe, how dare you? That's crazy. Like, I know the hypocrisy is almost intolerable. But the problem for us right now is that calling out that hypocrisy is not going to cause behavioral change in American leaders. And it's not going to cause Trump to change his ways or his sycophantic disciples to change their ways, you know? So as much as we can be deeply frustrated about the hypocrisy and the hypocrisy of America calling out South Africa when many of the American leaders now were involved in American politics, when America had Nelson Mandela on an FBI watch list, when America was calling the ANC the worst of terrorist organizations around the world, when America was decrying any engagement by Americans with the ANC or any black South Africans at all of that hypocrisy is true, and it's galling and it's horrible to swallow. But it's also just something we can feel. It's not something that's actually going to be brought to bear on and cause behavioral change in this dynamic, I don't think.
I think you're right. And I also think he's probably just not going to get let in at the end of the day. I mean, at this point, he'll probably just get stopped at the border for social media posts about Trump.
Yeah. Because people in America now, and it's crazy how quickly the fascism has happened, the authoritarianism has happened, that there are now like people in America with legitimate citizenship rights and residency rights just being disappeared. Like, no crime required, no charges required, being disappeared, shipped off to El Salvador, being kept in El Salvador. There's that one guy who should not have been deported. He's now in one of the scariest, most awful, like world famously awful jails in El Salvador. The Supreme Court of America went 9-0 saying that the Trump administration had to bring him back. And the Trump administration just says, no, we're not going to do that. Like, America is fully, sincerely in a constitutional crisis caused by fascist authoritarianism right now. The American government ignores the courts, ignores the law, does what it wants, deports people, detains people, and disappears people without trial or evidence, often in secret. And they, through that, shut down free speech and silence dissent. That is, like, by definition, authoritarianism. It's by definition fascism. So these are the people that we're talking about when we're trying to find some kind of magical solution to the fact that we are their punching bag right now. It's really, really an extraordinary situation to be in.
And you know, it's interesting when you're talking about El Salvador and people being sent off or disappeared and things, because it seems like it's not just for outsiders at this point. I mean, just recently, I think in the last day, right, we've seen reports and clips of a bit of a hot mic moment for Donald Trump and the president of El Salvador, where he mentioned that homegrowns are next.
I said, homegrowns are next. The homegrowns. You got to build about 5 more places.
Yeah, that's big.
All right.
Yo. So what is that? Illegal residence or like yeah,
I don't know.
Like he's going to
Legal,
try
illegal?
Yeah, illegal Americans.
Or legal, but with the wrong views.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I just wonder how they could possibly try to define that.
Yeah.
It's really extraordinary, and it's so important, I think, that we try to engage with America, but it just feels like a hiding to nothing. The problem with these Jonas quotes is that I just don't think they're going to let him in.